Dr. Gohar Ejaz, who was to be here, is not with us here. He'll be joining us online. He's Chief Executive, Ejaz Group of Companies, and he'll be sharing his views on business and investment environment. Dr. Ejaz.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and honor today to be addressing this webinar. I would like to congratulate Dr. Nadeem Ul-Haq for putting such an august house together, for reviewing what we have done in 75 years and what we plan to do in next 25 years. Representing textiles, I'll focus my discussion on textiles. There's a very interesting situation which I would like to bring to the house, because we continue to talk about our economy, but we don't look at the reality of what is there in our economy. I would like to just bring you forward a chart. And my chart is basically driving us towards the vision of how Pakistan can achieve an exports from $20 billion to $40 billion in next 5 years. When I say that, we have achieved this target first time in 2001, when we created Vision 2005. In 5 years, we doubled the exports from $5 billion to $10 billion. Second time we did this now in 10 years, where we increased our exports from $10 billion to $20 billion in textiles, approximately 19.3 exactly. But the situation, if you look at my chart here, is very clear. There are islands of excellence. We have Style Textile, who has exported $611 million this year. He's number one. But when I look at the top 10, and I go down to number 10, it's Masood Textile at $255 million. And when I average all 10, the average is $360 million. So there is one island of excellence on it, which is $600 million, but the top 10 companies of the country exporting are only $360 million. And worst of all, there is only one company, United Energy, who is exporting, which is other than textiles in top 10. When I go down to top 20, the exports drop down to $172 million at number 20. And I go down further to number 40, the exports go down to $100 million. And when I go down to number 100, it goes down to $53 million. So the cake which we have, this cake, when I calculated for top 100 exporters of the country, was $13.5 billion. Out of those $13.5 billion, the top 40 contributed $6.5 billion, and the balance 60 contributed $6.5 billion. So the average exports from our country is $130 million per business house. When I look at these numbers, I continue to wonder, what is the problem? Is our country just capable enough to create entrepreneurs of $130 million? The answer is no. We can create one with $600 million who started 30 years ago with stitching plant. I remember in Kot Lakhpat, I visited his factory in 1992, just with 200 stitching machines, and has touched $611 million, and the largest manufacturer and supplier for Adidas and Nike, both of them together from his two plants here. Same goes for lots and lots. But what worries me, there are 6 rice exporters here. There are 4 metal exporters here. There are 2 petrochemical exporters here, 2 petroleum products here. So there is nothing. And when we say that textile is the sunset industry of Pakistan, I totally disagree. And that is what I'm trying to present here. When I look down and I see last year, number 1 exporter of the country increased. He was the same person, Style Textile. He was $429 million, has come to 612. He's up 50%. Like I said, he broke that barrier and went up by 50% last year. But otherwise, if I look at all averages, everybody has increased their export quantitatively and value-wise on an average 30%. This is where we stand with the whole chart. When I look at the export performance, which I said in 2012, I was $12.3 billion. Today at 19.3, I am targeting to be $25 billion next year. We continue to hear that Pakistan does not export value added. You'll be surprised to see here today. It's $19.3 billion and more than 80% is all value added. The number one export is knitwear garments. Number two export is woven garments. Number three export is home textile. Number four is towel. There is then, when I say this, that 80% is value added, I still have $2.4 billion of dyed fabric with me. This $2.4 billion of dyed fabric, I put in a vision how I can increase this to $10 billion. I still have $1.2 billion of yarn surplus. I can add value, another $10 billion there. So I have this $20 billion of raw material with me for finished products in Pakistan. And I need a very low investment now because $5 billion, which I've invested in last 2 years, has created my infrastructure for yarn fabric, dyed fabric, all of it, which was all capital intensive. Now I'm moving down and I'm comparing for the first time. I'm saying that in last 10 years, from 2010 to 18, rather 8 years, my exports could not compete with Bangladesh. We were up 39% and they were up 145%. But in these last 4 years, I've gone up 43% compared to their 32%. The only reason is one, I was given regional competitive energy tariff for the first time. I thank PIDE for it, Dr. Nadeemul Haq personally. They did the whole market survey and 35% is the cost of production for energy. And if I am giving 2 times the energy cost, which is there in China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and India, which is maximum 9 cents, I cannot compete with any of them. And when I was given this 9 cent, I proved that I'm not less than Bangladesh. I wish the policymakers would have listened to me from 2013 to 18 also, and we would not have been suffering this current account deficit of $15 billion today. The average value, I continue to hear people saying without looking at the facts, in 2012, at the same cotton price, which it is today, $1.20, the average price of export was $2.18 per kg from Pakistan, which is up 300% in last 8 years. It's $6.48 today. Now my vision, I want that textile sectors should commit to set up 1,000 garment plants. I look at the average size, which is an optimal size for a stitching plant, which is 500 stitching machines. These 500 stitching machines, each one will have a worker of 700 workers directly. The average investment to set up one is $7 million for 500 machines, but we can set it up at a cost of $2.5 million and then grow to $7 billion. Start with 200 machines and go to 500 machines. With this $7 billion investment, I go up to $20 billion in export of garments. What do I need? My requirement is simple. My requirement is I can give you this $40 billion exports in 5 years. Investment is not large. This is stitching plants only. I will be putting up $2 billion of stitching plants every year. The major cost is infrastructure because stitching machines are not expensive, but the construction is expensive. The working capital is required. That's what I said, that each plant requires $7 million. My point is that my working capital is stuck. I'll give you a chart. I have made a chart. The new policy was started, whereas they said that 0 rating should be withdrawn from the textile value chain. When you withdraw the 0 rating, this results in my amount being paid and then across the value chain from cotton to yarn to fabric to dyed fabric, which cannot be consumed directly by anybody. Not be consumed, I repeat, directly, because nobody eats cotton, nobody wears yarn, nobody wears gray fabric. It's all about after dyed fabric. And my vertical setups, if I have a complete vertical setup, I don't need to pay from yarn to fabric to dyed fabric. But here, I'm made to pay, and you'll be surprised to see that in 2021, last year, at item number 33 is textiles. This is the exact sales tax collection report of the Government of Pakistan, FBR. At number 3, they say that a total amount of 160 billion plus was collected, 148 was refunded 18.4 was the net collection. This year they say they have collected 254 billion, refunded 199 billion, and the total amount they have collected is 49.9 billion. So I take this year's 22 June number, 200 billion rupees collected and refunded for a collection of 49.9 billion, which is to be collected from the consumers. And my 200 billion rupees remains stuck with them because it's a 10-month cycle, because they refund on consumption and export. And my cycle is 7 to 8 months. Now 200 billion rupees of my capital is stuck. I don't know how much value it is adding to FBR, but with this 200 billion rupees, which is my money stuck at all times with FBR, which is a wrong policy to collect from us rather than the consumers at the finishing stage. This is holding me hostage for further expansion right now. Next point, which is most important, is that we need to create, through the support of the government, technical education, vocational training institutes should have a department of stitching management. The TEFTAs are there. The universities should have the garment management courses there. If this is the future for Pakistan for $20 billion, then the whole nation has to come together. If we cry for $16 billion current account deficit and we all get together to go in, the whole cabinet goes in for $3 billion of investment to Qatar, why can't we just sit together and put this house in order? I can guarantee you that we will give you $5 billion annually for next 4 consecutive years. Thank you very much.